Hello and welcome to a new edition of Lantern Sports Now. Let's take a look at what's been happening in Buckeye sports this week.
The Ohio State men's basketball team defeated Iowa Saturday night 82-61 to a sold-out crowd of 18,809 fans. This was the first sellout in the shot in 4 years. The Hawkeyes went on a 7-0 run early that put Iowa up 18-15. Senior forward Jayshawn Tate had a fast break dunk after a turnover from Iowa sophomore forward Tyler Cook that put the Buckeyes back in the lead. Ohio State followed up with an 8-0 run and then 4 threes late in the first half from Andre Wesson, Andrew Dakich, and CJ Jackson that put the Buckeyes up 42-32 at the end of the half. Iowa cut the lead by 8 early in the second, but Ohio State went on another big 14-0 run to extend their lead by 18, and the Hawkeyes struggled to gain momentum. The Buckeyes had their largest lead of the game with 29 points following a jumper and layup by sophomore center Musa Jallow and foul shots made by freshman center Caleb Wesson. Wesson led the Buckeyes with 18 points and was 5 for 8 from the field and had 7 rebounds. Redshirt junior Keita Bates-Diop and junior guard CJ Jackson had 14 points each. Ohio State was 9 for 20 from the three-point range and shot 53% from the field.
That Iowa could really score the ball, and they did that in the first half. They have a lot of stuff you have to guard, and I did not think we were as good as we needed to be defensively in the first half, but our guys responded. I thought we were good offensively for the whole game. Moved the ball, shared it, made the right pass at the right time. Had a few too many turnovers, but I thought offensively we were really good. I thought we were much better defensively in the second half.
Ohio State is now 22-5 overall and 13-1 in conference play. The Buckeyes take on Penn State Thursday at 8 p.m.
So we have here now our assistant sports editor, Edward Sutton. He's also our men's basketball beat writer. Ed, this team just is coming off a large win over Iowa. Do you get a sense that now they're taking on Penn State, who beat them in heartbreaking fashion with a three-pointer at the end? Do you get a sense that this Ohio State basketball team is looking for some sort of redemption or revenge against the only team that's beaten them in conference play?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, anytime a team loses, they're going to be looking for redemption. I don't think that that's necessarily the biggest motivator for this team. I don't think that they look at this as a chance that we're going to go out there and get revenge. That's not what they're saying in the locker room. What they're saying is, this is a chance for us to prove that the loss to Penn State earlier in the season, was more of just a fluke, that it was just the product of a bad shot and poor defense at the beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. I think that this is going to be a game for them where more than anything, it's pretty much just about staying on track for them right now.
Yeah, now the Buckeyes were ranked number 8 in the latest AP poll. The NCAA Tournament Selection Committee put out their first rankings of the season and listed the Buckeyes as a 4 seed in the tournament, 14th overall. How big is that for this Ohio State team to be considered that high this late in the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's pretty significant that they're considered already a 4 seed. I mean, it essentially does guarantee at this point they will make the NCAA tournament. They could lose the rest of the game and get rest of the games they have this season, get knocked out in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. They're still in, and I think that even at this point, if they were to lose 1 or 2 more games the rest of the season, while they may not necessarily be a 4 seed going into the tournament, maybe they fall as low as 5, maybe 6. Mm-hmm. I think that what it showed is that the committee, while it doesn't necessarily view them as a better team than a Purdue or a Michigan State, even though Ohio State beat both of them, it shows that the committee at least is a believer in what Ohio State has done to this point. They've proven at this point they're a legit contender. Even though the Big Ten has had a weak season, Purdue and Michigan State are both legit teams. And Ohio State beat Purdue on the road, and it handled Michigan State pretty well at home.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned a little bit their closing stretch, including Penn State. There are just 4 games left in this season. Michigan in Ann Arbor, Rutgers at home, but then they travel to Bloomington, Indiana, to play Indiana. Now, what are the chances that this team is able to make it out of those 4 games unscathed?
They definitely have a legit chance to make it out unscathed, I think. It really, for me at least, I think that it's going to come down to the first 2 games in that stretch. If they can beat Penn State on the road, and then they can go into Ann Arbor and beat Michigan as well, I think that they're probably going to win out. They should really handle Rutgers at home. They should beat Indiana on the road, although that could be a closer game than I think a lot of people would expect. But if Ohio State, for me, I think the biggest challenge for Ohio State is going to be Michigan on the road. Yeah. Penn State's not going to make 11 out of 14 from beyond the arc again. They're not going to make 4 straight out of the gate. And Tony Carr, I'd be shocked if Tony Carr made another shot like he did in the first game.
Crazier things have happened.
Crazier things have happened. I mean, Andrew Dockich made a half-court shot earlier in the year.
That's true.
But I think that if all goes according to plan, Ohio State's a better team than Penn State, even in State College. Michigan, though, that could be tough. Michigan's a weird team. And they're a team that really could give Ohio State some issues.
Okay, now fast forward to the end of February. It's February 28th. It's the start of the Big Ten tournament. This team could be the top seed in that tournament if they go on and win those games. What type of run or how deep of a run can fans expect for this Ohio State team to make?
Yeah, I mean, so at this point, I think that Ohio State, even if Ohio State isn't the outright Big Ten champion at the end of the year, which that would mean they would lose one more game. They could lose one more game and still be the #1 seed in the Big Ten tournament. And I think that if they're the #1 seed in the Big Ten tournament, that means that the only real challenge that they're going to be faced with is beating one of Michigan and Nebraska at some point before they go on to the Big Ten championship game. They would only have to, they've already clinched buys for both the first and second rounds of the tournament. That means that they only have to win 3 games to win the Big Ten tournament overall. They should beat whoever they play in their first round. They would face presumably Michigan and Nebraska, and then presumably Purdue, Michigan State. Now, with that said, if they do lose 2 games and they end up as a #2 seed in the tournament or as a #3 seed in the Big Ten tournament, then they start to run into a bit of an issue because then they face I believe it would be Purdue. They would face Purdue in the second round, and that's a much tougher matchup for them, obviously.
All right, thanks again for joining us, Ed, as you always do. This team does play Penn State on Thursday at 8 p.m. You think they'll get the win, Ed?
I do think they're going to end up pulling this one out. I think they should be able to win.
All right. Well, the Ohio State football team released their assistant coaches' contracts on Wednesday, and 2 assistants will be making over $1 million. Defensive coordinator Greg Schiano will be making $1.5 million in 2018, and offensive coordinator Ryan Day will be making an even $1 million as well. New Ohio State coach Alex Grinch will be making $800,000 next season, making him the 3rd highest paid assistant on the staff. The Ohio State wrestling team took on Michigan on Sunday, looking to get back on track in Big Ten meets after their loss to Penn State. Ohio State went on to win the match against the Wolverines, but the anchor of the Buckeye team and Olympic champion Kyle Snyder lost his first NCAA match since 2015, the 2015 NCAA Finals, that is. Snyder fell to Michigan's Adam Kuhn on a 3-1 decision. Snyder and the Buckeyes have their final match ahead of Big Ten play against North Carolina State in Raleigh on Sunday. There are a full slate of Buckeye sports on tap this weekend. Men's volleyball will play host to Lindenwood at 7 p.m. on Thursday, while women's swimming will be in the middle of Big Ten championships all day at the McCorkle Aquatic Center. As we said, the men's basketball team will be looking for redemption against Penn State on Thursday at 8 p.m. Women's lacrosse will be playing their first home game after losing their season opener to Navy last weekend at 7 p.m. on Friday against Detroit Mercy. The track and field team will be holding their Buckeye tune-up meet all day on Friday, and both men's and women's ice hockey will be taking part in weekend doubleheaders, with the men taking on Minnesota and the women facing off with Bemidji State. Finally, the women's basketball team continues their run through Big Ten play as Purdue comes to Columbus on Sunday at 1 p.m. That's all we got for you this week on Lantern Sports Now. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Snapchat and Twitter. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.